The movie begins in 1952 at a St. Carta's monastery in Romania. Two nuns are walking towards a room. There are many crosses on both sides. They reach a door with Latin writing on it. It meant that God's company was only this far. Now one of the nuns takes a key in her hand and goes inside the door. While going, she tells the other nun, "Trust in God." As soon as she leaves, the nun standing outside starts praying. Just then, the nun who went inside the room comes out bleeding after a while. He gives the key to the nun standing outside and says, "You know what to do. Don't come into his hands, because he needs a life to come into this world." At the same time, an invisible force pulls that nun with it and takes it inside. The nun standing outside runs away from there in fear. That nun knew that she would not be able to escape, so she apologized to God and committed suicide and died. We see a soul. That soul looked exactly like a nun. The next morning, we see a boy named Frenchie. He used to provide food and drinks in the nun's house. Just then, he sees the dead body of the same nun who committed suicide. Crows are eating that dead body. After that, the scene shifts and we see the Vatican City. There, we see Father Burke, who is discussing something with another father. In the discussion, the other fathers tell him that a nun has committed suicide in Romania. You have to go there to investigate this case. Sister Irene is also chosen to accompany them for this investigation. Sister Irene had not yet taken the vow of becoming a nun. Father Burke and Sister Irene leave for Romania. Upon reaching there, they meet the same food supplier Frenchie. Frenchie tells them that all the people in the village are also afraid to go to the nun's house. Even he himself goes once in 3 months and returns from outside with ration goods. At first, Frenchie refuses to go with them, but on more requests, he agrees to go. Then, Frenchie takes them both to the nun's palace. He takes them to the room where the nun's dead body was lying. He gets quite scared seeing the dead body of that nun sitting in a sitting position and tells them that I had put this dead body lying here. It was not put at this time. Father finds the key in the dead body's hand. He keeps the key with him. As soon as he keeps the key with him, someone knocks on a door near them. Frenchie tells them that this is the same door from where the nun used to take her supply so that she did not have to step outside her church even a step. Now, they bury the dead body of that nun in the park. Just then, the bell hanging on the coffin's grave in the park starts ringing. Father tells Sister Irene that the one buried in this grave died of some illness. The purpose of ringing this bell is that if someone is mistakenly considered dead and buried, they can ring this bell to indicate that they are not actually deceased. Now, Father and Frenchie are taken to the main gate of the house where they found the dead body of that nun. During this time, Father notices a nun in a window, and when they approach, they are quite surprised to see 3 of them looking at something that surprises them. The nun's blood still seems fresh, even though this incident happened nearly 2 weeks ago. After that, they go to a church where they meet another nun. Her face is completely covered, but her voice is quite terrifying as she identifies herself as a nun sister and tells Father and Frenchie to leave from there. Father tells her that if they leave, the Vatican church people will send someone else for investigation. Then, she offers them to stay near her house because it's time for their evening prayer. She asks them to come back tomorrow. When Frenchie is leaving, he notices a dark figure in the cemetery, which turns out to be a frightening nun who attacks him, but he manages to escape somehow. On the other hand, Father and Sister, who are discussing something during dinner, Sister tells Father that she used to have strange visions in her childhood. She always had one thing in her mind, that Mother Mary was showing her the way. She tells Father that the Vatican helped her in her childhood, which is why she was sent here. Father also shares an incident from 20 years ago in France, where he performed an exorcism on a child who got seriously injured during the exorcism. Unfortunately, the child died later, and Father felt responsible for his death, starting to blame himself for it. The next night, a transmitter automatically turns on, waking Father from his sleep. When Father gets up to check, he sees a shadow of a small child. The child is the same age as the one he exorcised 20 years ago. He chases the child, but the small shadow disappears from the room. Then Father realizes that the child is none other than the one he exorcised 20 years ago, but now he has become a demon. Then a snake comes out of the child's mouth and attacks Father. Father gets very scared and falls into an empty coffin behind him, the door of which closes on its own and he is buried alive in it. He starts ringing the bell on the grave for help. On the other hand, Sister Irene's eyes open due to the wind. Sister Irene also hears the sound of prayers faintly, and when Sister follows those sounds, a spirit nun chases her. Sister follows the sound and reaches a church. There they see that many nuns are praying at that time. They also see the shadow, which slowly descends and lands in the mirror behind them. That spirit attacks Sister, breaking the mirror. Sister talks to the nuns and comes to the cemetery outside the church, where she hears Father's screams and the sound of a bell. And all of a sudden, the bells of all the graves start ringing, but Sister finds out from her vision which grave Father is in. As Sister Irene is digging the grave to get Father out, a spirit gets stuck on Father inside the grave. But before that spirit could kill Father, Sister Irene gets him out of there. Father finds some books in the same grave, which he takes. The next morning, Sister and Father go to the castle. When they go there, they call the superior of the nuns, but they do not get any response from them. On the contrary, the door inside opens automatically. So, Father gives the key to Irene, which they took from the dead nun. And before going inside, Father tells Irene that they have to find out where this key is from. When Sister goes in the morning, she sees a nun. She calls her out, but that nun ignores her and moves on. Following her, Sister goes to a church, where a nun is praying in front of the cross. Sister calls that nun, but before the prayer is disturbed, another nun comes and takes Sister away from there. That nun tells Sister that she has been praying in this church for a long time and all the nuns have shifts and everyone comes to pray in their respective shifts. And they both leave from there. Now the scene shifts and we see Frenchie in a bar. There he learns that a 12-year-old girl of a man in that village has committed suicide there. The bar owner tells Frenchie that this castle is behind all these incidents. Upon hearing the Frenchie, it is understood that both the sister and father are in danger. Therefore, he grabs a gun and leaves from there. After that, the scene shifts, and we see the father, who is studying books. Suddenly, the main door of the place is closed, and inside it is where the sister has gone. She tells another nun that she saw a nun last night. According to her, this spirit came from hell and that might be the reason the nun committed suicide. Another nun comes and prevents them from discussing this further, instructing all the nuns to leave the place. But the nun tells her that it's now nighttime, and all the doors are locked, so the sister will stay here tonight. Now, inside, the father is looking at the map of the castle, and while looking at the map, he heads towards a large hall. During this, he hears the voice of Mother Superior. Father reaches Mother Superior and tells her that something bad is happening here and also mentions that nun. But Mother Superior explains to him that it's of no use. Now, the sister has another vision. It means Mother Mary will show her the way, and in this vision, she sees that nun again. In all this time, the sister's eyes open, and she sees that there is a nun in her room. The sister starts going towards that nun, and then she has the vision of the nun's suicide again. Meanwhile, the door of their room opens and she comes out. Walking, she reaches the door where it is written, "God's company is up to this." After so long, the door also opens and we see that soul there. That soul attacks her, frightening the sister, but she somehow escapes from there, saving her life. Meanwhile, the other nun catches and saves her. When the sister comes back to the church, she sees that a nun is praying and there is a dead body lying next to her. When the sister removes the cloth to see the dead body, she sees that the dead body is none other than the nun who has been her companion for a long time. After that, we see the father, where that soul comes in the form of the same small child, whom he had exorcised 20 years ago. That soul attacks the father. The father runs away, saving his life. Then we see that the soul is actually the soul nun, who is scaring the father in the form of her child. Also, many nuns come to the church in the church. And all those nuns are quite scared. One of them tells the sister to pray with them too and keep her eyes only on Mother Mary. And then, blood starts coming out of Mother Mary's eyes. That soul prevents all the nuns from praying one by one, but the sister continues her prayers. The father again runs away to the house where again a soul nun attacks him. But Frenchie suddenly comes there and saves his life. During the pray, he also attacks the spirit sister and transforms her body into a star with black magic. At that moment, Father and Frenchie arrive. The sister tells them that she was in love with the other nuns, but when they look, there are no other nuns there, just a dead body. Sister realizes that no one else is alive, they have all been killed by the demon. Suddenly, the dead body attacks Father, but he uses holy water to burn it. Frenchie suggests that they've spent enough time there and should leave, but Sister refuses and reveals that the nun who committed suicide didn't actually commit suicide but sacrificed herself because the demon needed a life to enter this world, which she gave. She says they need to find Jesus' blood to stop the demon for good. Father asks where they can find this blood, and Sister explains that Mother Superior's dead body was found in a crypt, and she knows the way there. However, before going, Sister had to take the oath to become a nun for the rest of her life, dedicated to serving God. Father agrees, and Irene takes the oath, becoming a nun. Now, the three of them go to the basement where Mother Mary's statue was pointing in a particular direction. Father tells Sister that this is the vision that will guide them. Following that direction, they find a door, and Sister opens it with a key. When the door is opened, they find Jesus Christ's blood. The Father gives that blood to the sister, and they all walk towards the door where "God's help ends here" was written. They all go inside, moving in different directions. Sister goes in the direction of Jesus. In that direction, a spirit nun attacks her. When Sister tries to escape from there, many demonic nuns block her path, and all doors are closed. Hearing Sister's screams, Frenchie runs toward that door, while on the other side, many demonic nuns also block Father's path. But Father creates a cross with fire and escapes from there. When Frenchie goes inside that door, he sees many demonic nuns, and between the marks, Sister appears in an unusual position because the demon had possessed her to pass through. She attacks Frenchie in the form of Sister and hangs Jesus Christ's blood from her neck onto Sister's face. Then, the spirit leaves Sister's body. However, it attacks Frenchie again. When Sister advances to save Frenchie, she uses her demonic power to lift him from there and throws him into another room with a lot of water. It's there that the demon once again attacks Father, this time in the form of the child. The demon's mouth produces a snake that injures Father's eyes. When the sister starts to emerge from the water, she realizes that the blood from her throat has fallen into the water. That's when the spirit, which had emerged from the water and tried to drown the sister, attempts to attack her again. Father makes a significant effort to save the sister, but the spirit pushes him away. The sister pulls the blood towards herself and brings it close to her mouth, catching the spirit's attention. However, it turns out to be empty because Sister Irene had already consumed Jesus Christ's blood. When the spirit begins to attack Sister again, she spits Jesus Christ's blood from her mouth onto the spirit, causing it to weaken. A few drops of the blood also fall into the water, sealing the spirit's fate. The next morning, as they are leaving the nun's house, Sister Irene and Father greet Frenchie, and she tells them that the place is now completely pure. At this moment, we notice an upside-down cross mark behind Frenchie's neck, revealing that the spirit nun has not been completely vanquished. And the movie ends here. How did you like this movie? Do tell us by commenting. And do subscribe to our channel.